Hello, beautiful Gemini. My name is Ivona Rose, and welcome to my channel, Rose Healing Light. I'm very happy that you are here. This will be a reading with spiritual guidance for the month of December 2022. And this will be good. So this will apply to your sun in Gemini, so your sun sign, your moon sign, and your ascendant sign. Also, uh, to like you can watch it for Venus, for your Venus sign, and also I say you can also watch it if you know you like for any placements where you have Gemini in your chart. So any other positions or planets if you have in Gemini, you can also try to watch it and see if this is a relevant message. Just remember to follow your intuition. And this will be and also and I do connect. I also connect with the angels and archangels when I do the reading. So I've already asked Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron to be with us, to send us some protection and some blessings, and just to help us and to help me and deliver as best as I can the messages for you. So let's go ahead and get started. I feel I'm being reminded, just to also remind you actually, that in the month of December, Mars is retrograde, and Mars is in your sign in Gemini, is retrograde for the whole of the month. So this obviously may affect, and I think there is obviously a masculine actually element that is being shown in the cards. So obviously somehow it may apply to you, and it may cause various issues, various, let's say, stir-ups, various hiccups, and various things. But make sure also, probably for many of you, for some of you who do follow astrology and listen to astrologers, this was just a reminder, just to remember about it. And just take it as your own guidance, right? So follow whatever comes to you from what I've said. But let's just go ahead and get started with your reading and with the messages. I have already prepared most of the cards. I probably may just pull some clarifiers as we go along. We will see. So we will start with a theme. So with an overall energy for, let me just show you so that it looks better. Anyway, the theme for the month. I wanted to show you this. So I just wanted to show you this as I wanted the card to be clear. So the theme is called Unbound, and it says releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. So in the month of December, you are going to come up with situations which will give you opportunity to release old patterns, simply some old patterns, and I feel like some old contracts, but this relates to soul contracts, right? And it relates to anything, potentially even some karmic aspects of a soul contract. Karmic vows are coming up as well. So anything also anything that comes from past lives, anything that you haven't learned in the past, or you did not learn in the past life, right? Or you didn't have the opportunity, it will be coming up in the month of December at some point, so that you can take a look at this and perhaps just make a decision that you want to release it, right? So you don't need to make the same decision and maybe the same mistake as in the past. All right. Let's go ahead. So obviously there is more explanation in there. I've got tarot cards, and I've got past, present, and future position, and I've got the challenge. So yes, I will talk more. The theme also, so this theme of being unbound, so unbinding yourself, right? So kind of releasing the patterns, but it is releasing past patterns. So any obviously issues, any patterns from the past. In your case, it does relate probably quite strongly to relationships. Also, it may be anything to do with a father figure, or a romantic partner as well, right? Spouse, husband. So there is a masculine energy here, right? So again, for you guys, I don't know if for females and males watching, but the way it's coming up, because we've got the Emperor card, and I will show it to you in a second when I'm explaining the positions, right? So even for men, I think that this may be also a relationship with a father or father figure, or any other way that you related, obviously, to a man in the past or past lives, right? Friend, boss, and so and in this way. So let me just start with the past position. In the past, we've got balance. So we've got two cards, balance, and the ego doesn't want to come up. we've got balance, which is the traditional temperance card, and ego, which is the traditional devil. So in the past, when I also meditated, so just also to let you know, when I actually meditated briefly before your reading, I felt fears coming around your heart center. So for those who work with chakras or with healing, just pay attention to those. I think it may relate to different things, but fears around your heart center, it may be fears around love, and fears also around relationship, but also it comes like fears around, let's say, bonding in relationships, right? And maybe establishing new relationships, because of past traumas, right? So anyway, but the fears are coming up also for you to be aware of them, right? And just to work with them. So please don't be anyway, don't be afraid of the fear, right? But just to come back to the past position. So that's why we've got the ego and the balance. It felt very strongly that it was a relationship, unfortunately, probably maybe in your childhood and in your past life. So the devil card, sorry, the ego card does represent bondage, right? So a relationship that you were tied to somehow. Again, it can be a father figure or a father relationship, or a past life, let's say like a husband, also wife kind of a relationship. So marriage, because this is, that's also binding. Contract, in one of, I do have a contract card, and yeah, and the contracts also. So contract as a word comes to you quite strongly. So comes to, yeah. So I feel it's about the soul contract as well, right? So hopefully you guys know, like, it's in a broader way of seeing things, but it can also relate to a contract in the physical life. So like marriage would be a contract, right? Or for example, legal agreement, I don't know, to rent a house or to buy a house, and similar aspects, or a legal contract to be employed, right, with an employer. Coming back to this, so the ego does represent, and the balance, the ego card. Sorry guys, the ego card, obviously, just I started to talk about that bondage and feeling you being tied up maybe to a relationship, but it's a relationship. I think the balance card wants me to talk about the balance, and it is in this way, in this position, it does feel like it's a relationship that unfortunately was causing some kind of a big imbalances in your life. And so their relationship and the, let's say, the bondage, or however it was, right? For example, like narcissistic relationships that can be really tough and very heavy, right? So this, and because it's also a lot about control, right? So the relationship, so anything that you experience in the past and the past life is about an issue where you couldn't find, like, the relationship caused basically an imbalance in your life of some sort. And it felt like, and it feels like, it can be even a bigger imbalance, right? So when you, let's say, when you grew up and you went to work, you find, you for example, notice that you didn't have the right balance between work and like your personal life, right? So like work-life balance was distorted, and it comes also that it could have been highly distorted. For example, you were working, I don't know, long hours, or overworking yourself, and you didn't have enough time for yourself and maybe for your personal relationships, right? Or even, I don't know, for example, for your home. Or you were working very hard and sometimes you were not paid the right amount, right, according to how much you have worked. So this is, let's say, as in an employment contract. Yeah, so I think the main message is obviously like the relationship that, so if it was, let's say, with a father relationship, right, or obviously this may stem also from some past lives relationship, and any patterns, underlying patterns, right, would have caused you basically the suffering to suffer that you didn't have enough balance in your life. And I do feel like, so it's also, to be honest, the second position, or the second aspect, is also an emotional balance, but emotional balance is kind of like, we do need to take care of our emotions every day, but it does feel like also on a little bit of on a bigger scale of things, right? And these cards actually also come up, so that's important, but they come up with a reversal, with a reversed card, seventh chakra, Archangel Uriel, and seventh chakra. Yeah, so even, sorry guys, but maybe because you're my camera doesn't want to like focus properly, but I hope you can see it, right? So this is Archangel Uriel. Seventh chakra is the crown chakra, and with the ego card, it does seem like there's lack of respect, for example, for spiritual matters in life, right? And lack of respect maybe for being a little bit humble, right? So again, control issues are coming up here, control and power. So perhaps this person who was causing this big imbalance, right, in your life, or who was, let's say, behaving the way they would, they didn't obviously have enough understanding, and they didn't have enough, let's say, belief in the higher power, in God, in spirit, yeah, and ascended masters, right? So they obviously were not let's say, a religious person, but they also didn't have it, and probably it caused them to be, because very often I know it from my own experience and from my own knowledge that very often people who don't believe in God, for example, right, or don't believe in higher power, they can be very egoistic, right? Because all they see only themselves, unfortunately, and then all they see, so they obviously they have a lot of fear inside of them, and kind of everything becomes kind of about them, right? So because they can't relate to a higher power and to an understanding that we are also, that not everything is within our control. Yeah, I think that's just let's keep moving on. It's just something that I know I have experienced as well, right? So the present position actually, and maybe just the main, like as a main theme as well, it's page. So you've got page of air, guys. Honesty, I know that Cancer. So with the page of air is also, it's something that can basically manifest in communication. So it's also communication. Page of, so communication, for example, with that individual or with that pattern from in the past relationship, but it can be, we've talked about contracts, right? You guys take it the way it applies to you. So for example, communication, it could be also written words. So with contracts, anything that is in writing that maybe didn't go the right way. But the issue, so I feel like even though this is a present position, but the whole issue, because we've talked about releasing past relationships, obviously it is about communication and any other aspects. So for example, like anything in writing, like contracts in writing, and anything that is written, and maybe someone or some people paid attention too much to the written contracts rather than, for example, being just a humble humans, right? And then trying to resolve, let's say, issues in a human way, right? And this comes, to be honest, this does represent a bit of a shadow, because it comes with the hostilities card. So just to show you, yeah, and because this will be your present, this is your present position. So it's probably even starting the month of December, right? As I said, this will be December. So because obviously both of these things, they do represent obviously some issues, some patterns of hostilities. You know, people maybe being angry, expressing various negative emotions onto you, not being able to manage themselves as well. It could also be with page of air, it could also be gossip, or people talking about you behind your back, probably not in a nice way. But just coming to a summary of that, because you are releasing, so I think December is just going to bring an opportunity, is going to bring something on the surface, but at the same time, this will be an opportunity for you to say, I've had enough, right? Or just to see it again for what it is. So see it for what it is. Perhaps say whatever you need to say, whatever, so like with page of air, whatever is on your heart, and then try to release it, right? Again, the feeling that I've had also in other readings, that you guys probably, for many of you, maybe not for all of you, but for many of you, you probably have worked with, for example, like healing from a narcissistic relationship from the past for a while. And remember that whenever we heal from something, or whenever challenges come up in our life, this is also for us, like this is like a lesson, right, for all of us, really. And the way we approach it, obviously we can then clear the past karma, right? So the way we approach it, we can, and we always have a chance and opportunity to approach it in a new way, to understand, perhaps to also withdraw maybe and contemplate a little bit, to understand what let's say I have done wrong, or it doesn't have to be honest, because you may actually be a bit of a victim, right? But when you contemplate and withdraw a little bit, just to understand what has happened, like how they affected you, who was, like, you need to judge it. I mean, you can judge it a little bit, who was wrong, who was right, but then again, just coming back, that it may be just an opportunity to take this lesson, but maybe release it more fully, or just fully. It depends on your individual circumstance, but the card does talk about unbinding yourself, right, and releasing the soul patterns. So it's definitely a good time just to look at it from this perspective, that maybe enough is enough. I don't have to make the mistake, or I don't have to say yes just because, for example, someone is trying to persuade me or push me towards something that I don't want to do. Yeah, so just an example. All right, guys, and then in the future position, we've got the Lover's card, and it only confirms, and we've also, and I will, yeah, let me just show you straight away, because we've got two cards. One is talking about, one says actually contract, right, and the other one says door to value. Yeah, and that this is all comes together. The future, it does mean that it can come up at Christmas time, for example, or in the family gatherings, right? The lovers here, because we've talked about releasing past patterns. So the lovers indicates here to me a major relationship in your life, right? So it can be a relationship with a father, perhaps even maybe mother or father figure. Why do I say father? Sorry, why do I mention masculine? Because in the challenge position, so now I can actually show you straight away. In the challenge position, we've got the Emperor card, the Emperor, and we also have, I feel, we also have Archangel Michael with the Emperor card, and I will talk. So Archangel Michael, I feel like, so whenever he comes in the readings, for example, and I mention him, it's also a bit of a message for you, to an invitation to work with Archangel Michael to help you release maybe some cords or some ties, you know, like energetic ties from the past, to help you with the future. This is how it comes in. But let me, so I wanted to tell you why I do see more of the masculine, right, energy sometimes. Anyway, let me continue, because sometimes it can be also a woman who's let's say the masculine is not balanced enough, and she may be very controlling, right? So you can take it this way as well, because the Emperor card can be, but also for me very often the Emperor card actually does represent a narcissist. So someone, and again, I hope this is obviously a psychological term, right? I'm not saying this to judge anyone. And narcissism then goes further sometimes, right? It can be various levels and various degrees, and it can be like people, for example, psychopathic people, but psychopathic people, sorry, but I don't want to go too much into psychology of it. I guess you guys get the message. So the lovers is obviously an important, but it can be if you have had, let's say, a narcissistic parent, or like, for example, father, then you may experience the same problem in the romantic relationship, right? You can also experience the same problem with a friend, or with the boss, right, with your manager at a workplace, right, or obviously in any other aspect in life, right? You can even experience this as you may meet like a real estate agent, who is, for example, narcissistic. but anyway, so yeah, remember, so this just confirms, and it may happen. It's like the way timing wise, it feels like something may happen at Christmas time. Sometimes with the future card, I do say that it may be towards the end of December, or maybe even into January. The way I feel that maybe Christmas will bring some awakening to you, right? So maybe it doesn't mean that it will happen, that something bad will happen at Christmas. I wouldn't say that, but maybe Christmas will be a bit of a breakthrough point, right? Or maybe you will wake up at Christmas Day and suddenly feel like, wow, I just actually have a new idea how to handle this, and I can be free, or something like that, right? And I think, but just remember, the more important message here, I would say, is the contract and the door to value, right? So this is a lot we've talked. So I've already mentioned, let me just bring those two cards, right? I've already also mentioned that obviously that the whole unbinding, so releasing the past patterns from the past patterns from even lifetimes, right, ago. And contracts, it does relate to a contract. So as I said, a contract card does come quite strongly, but it can also be a marriage, right? It can be karmic vows. This is what I hear now. And for some of you who are aware enough, or who have done, let's say, enough work in the past, that you know that it can also be releasing like karmic vows or vows from past lives. So anything to do with marriage, let's say, issues and problems from past life, and also anything that obviously was then brought into this lifetime. Maybe this is also, I don't know, problems and issues in the marriage of your parents, right, or in the relationship of your parents, because this could also be perhaps like a civil partnership, right? But contract, and then any other contracts, legal employment contracts, or obviously you are buying a house, so like the legal agreements to purchase a house, right, and so on. But the door to value card, so this is how I know. And the door to value, on the other hand, it's basically asking you to understand what really is what it is that you value, right? So what is how do you perceive the value, for example? Like, so if this is about marriage, how do you perceive, like, how much do you value the marriage, or how much do you value perhaps the person that you are with, right? We are now living in a very much more, let's say, free society than even, let's say, 50 or 100 years ago. And now we can go into a relationship, but then say, well, if it doesn't work, I don't want to be that anymore, right? So you can get divorced, you can separate from the partner. So we do have much more freedom. And I think this is probably also a reminder with the devil card, you know, from the past, right, with the ego card, that you don't have to be bound. Even if you sign a contract as a marriage agreement, you don't have to be, let's say, bound by it like for the whole life. You don't have to. So you've got the opportunity, and it's a reminder and a chance, and you have a choice. So you can simply choose to release it, right? You can choose to end it in this way. And the door to value, just to shorten, just to perhaps finish on the door to value, I feel like this is probably an invitation for you to maybe contemplate and reflect upon what is it that you value more, right? Maybe in a relationship, because the marriage doesn't always provide, like, you can get married today because you think that someone is the right person, but maybe in 5 years time or 3 years time other issues are going to come up and this person may not be right anymore, right? You are changing and they are also changing, and your value system may change quicker than, let's say, your partner's value system. Yeah, and this will obviously cause like a discord in a relationship, right? And maybe even a cause for a breakup. But please take it, because I feel like this is a positive message, right? But it's a positive message more to liberate yourself, right? So that you can liberate yourself from the past and maybe past decisions that maybe your parents couldn't take, right? And as I've already spoken, so I think this is, yeah, the position I've already spoken. Then the Emperor card is obviously, this is your challenge, but I feel like I've already talked a lot about it, right? That's a masculine, that's like a major masculine. It's a father card. And it could be a narcissist as well as a shadow aspect. So because it's your challenge, that's why I've mentioned that anything that is coming up to do with contracts, control, marriage, any decisions around that obviously the theme is just asking you to kind of unbind, right? To release them, to basically set yourself free in a certain way from it, right? And it also may be a process. I just feel like now that if someone decided to get a divorce, then remember, it's possible that maybe something will come up in December that you will just say, okay, I'm done, right? Maybe it will be just one day you will wake up at Christmas, and because of some changes, you will just say, okay, I've got a clear mind. I probably need to just go, right? And I need to finish that. But that's, again, that's very individual. What I want to show you also, I've got, so okay, the card that is actually coming, because I also pull very often, I draw like a advice card, which very often I draw it with the whole theme card. And this card actually does say be humble. It does say first quarter moon in Leo, but that's just moonology cards, so you can take the reference if you want. But be humble, I think it's just reminding you also just to make sure, I think humility, because we've spoken, right, in the past that maybe you were, maybe your partner or your parent didn't recognize, for example, God or higher power or spiritual aspects, right? And this means that then the humility wasn't right there, right? So it's just a reminder. And with control issues, I feel it's just a reminder for you to stay humble, but to reflect and make sure that you hold your power, but at the same time maybe recognize, because obviously these issues like humility issues may come up, right? And with narcissist and control patterns, maybe you will just see it very clearly that someone is very egoistic rather than staying humble, right? So perhaps this may come up in two different ways, right? But for you also, just maybe be very gentle with yourself, and you will be able to understand if your ego, because sometimes if you have a lot of anger, you also may react or respond like out of your ego, right, rather than out of your, let's say, heart-centered self, right? So maybe just the humility is just reminding you, but it's the first thing always, I would say, remember to take care of yourself and find your balance, and you will be able to understand that maybe there is no point, don't react with anger, right? Just always try to withdraw yourself from a situation, give yourself enough time to balance, and then you will understand how you can react maybe in a more subtle way, but at the same time hold your power. Like, I feel like it's also about your power. Hold your power and hold your, like, stand your ground, right? So don't be afraid to say no if you need to say no. Yeah, I'm rushing because I think that we're just almost finished. This is actually, I also have the environment, and the environment is just reminding you, I've got 4 of water and Ace of Verb for you. But I feel like this also relates actually to that. We talked a lot about relationships and, let's say, some narcissistic aspects. So the 4 of water is the card of boredom, is the card of boredom and dissatisfaction. So probably something like in terms of maybe emotions and how did you feel. So anything, so this lack of balance that you have had because of, let's say, I don't know, the issues with the parents, let's say, in the past, and obviously whatever manifested in your life, it can be to do with, I don't know, you doing something and then feeling very dissatisfied with it, so not knowing how to untangle yourself from certain situations, maybe doing the work that at some point didn't satisfy you at all. It can also be lethargy, boredom. So I feel this is strongly related to that relationships and to you untangling yourself, right? And to saying, no, I don't need to be that anymore. On the other hand, perhaps maybe just do some healing work, because this is probably also about your emotion, right? So if you are dissatisfied, you need to do a bit of inner work, your own work, to know how to, how to release the pattern, and then perhaps know what is it that you want that probably will satisfy you, right? Or the same with the relationship, right? If you were so dissatisfied with the relationship that maybe it's time to stop something, right? And maybe it's time to end. You obviously you will make a decision, guys, the way you feel it's best for you. Yeah, with the Ace of Air, so the Ace of Air is actually a bit like the clarity in the mind, but it's also like someone may initiate a communication. So it's both aspects: honesty, communication, as we've already talked about communication, right? That is being someone may be very clear towards you about something. Yeah, so they actually do come up together, but then maybe at the same time as a mirror you can see very clearly that you don't need to be dissatisfied anymore, right? You honor your own feelings, I would say. Honor your own feelings and emotions. And if it does come up, stand your ground, and you remember that you do have the right to feel happy. You have the right to feel the way you feel, right? And dissatisfaction is not a very good feeling. And I would say that yeah, it's like a compass. It's just telling you that you need to do something about it because you have the right to feel better. All right. So I think really that's all I have. I mean, the last card. Actually, sometimes I pull also. This is an outcome card, the Empress. All that I'm feeling, it's an outcome card, but to me, very often the outcome is just talking about. It doesn't have to be like a specific outcome that comes up during the month. It's obviously the message. This is like the feminine aspect of you. So again, even if it's a male or female who is watching, like it's a feminine. It's probably about, so this could also mean an aspect of a mother who is perhaps looking out for you, but it's also, I feel like it's also about mothering yourself. So make sure that you take care of yourself properly with all of this. The Empress is also a major arcana card. So maybe actually the major issue, or maybe the major outcome. So maybe so obviously there will be an issue perhaps in a relationship, right? There'll be a challenge, there'll be a lesson to be learned. And part of that lesson is also to make sure that you take care of yourself, and to make sure that you come back, yeah, that you kind of like, it's like as a mother would treat you, right? She would give you a hug and she would take care of you and put protection, let's say, just protect you. Then you need to do it to yourself, I feel, right? So the Empress, I think it's just all about you and understanding maybe your feminine, yeah, and just protecting yourself. So a little bit mothering yourself and taking care of yourself in anything that comes up, right? And let me just pull, yeah, the reading, sorry guys, the reading has gone a bit longer. I'm just going to pull the last card, angel card for you, maybe because, okay, let me take this. So here, maybe this relates vulnerability. So I've got the card which is called wow. Yeah, here we go. You can see the card, right? Vulnerability and freedom. You see, so yeah, so vulnerability and freedom, the way I was just talking about your own, let's say, liberation, or like breaking free from past patterns in relationships, for example, and to do with control and whatever I've discussed. It's probably also, vulnerability is probably just also telling you that you also have the right to be sometimes vulnerable, but also to protect yourself, right? To be, let's say, to mother yourself. And then hopefully this can give you somehow freedom, right? So freedom is also your birthright, the same as vulnerability. So perhaps pay attention to those. It may feel like you are obviously much more sensitive than the person who perhaps hurt you in the past, or the person who is, let's say, very controlling. So perhaps just pay attention. Yeah, pay attention to your vulnerable feelings, and making sure that you take care of yourself and take care of your own feelings. But I feel like the message is also that you actually have the right to it, right? You have the right to your own feelings. You have the right to your own vulnerabilities. So if someone, yeah, but I don't want to, like, it's just also about narcissists sometimes tend to punish you, or tend to really be very, let's say, like hostile to you just because you, for example, had some emotions, right? Or are vulnerable. So just make sure that you have the right to it, and you have the right to protect yourself, and you have the right to your own space, right? And you have the right to say no as well. I think just a reminder from the angels. And they say, obviously there is the star. Just reach, I feel also they say just reach for the stars as well, right? Yeah, protect yourself, make sure that you are with yourself as well, and you can do it. Obviously the freedom is again a confirmation that you can free yourself from, from anything that wasn't obviously working in the past, right? Or was hurtful, or obviously toxic even. All right, I think this is it really. This is all. I hope you enjoyed the reading and then you found it useful. Please just hit perhaps the like button, subscribe, or share it with your friends. And I wish you a wonderful Christmas and wonderful holidays. So anything that you celebrate at that time. And I hope to see you on my future videos. Take care, and I'm sending you much love. Bye bye.